The week began with an almost deceptive sense of domestic activity, yet the undertones of manipulation were already being laid. Sarah and Jacob, oblivious to the storm brewing around them, were deep in the planning stages for a surprise occasion. Sarah enlisted the help of Belle, attempting to pull off the secret gathering with innocent enthusiasm. This momentary glimpse of normalcy serves only to amplify the shock when the true nature of their family's drama, Charity's terrible secret, is finally hinted at. Meanwhile, the dynamic between the Milligan/Dingle cluster saw an immediate spark of resentment. Ruby Milligan, struggling to offload a stock of wine, found a fleeting moment of relief when Charity Dingle offered to purchase it. However, the relief was short-lived. Ruby soon discovered the transaction was not the result of Charity's goodwill, but a carefully orchestrated maneuver by Caleb Milligan. The revelation immediately soured the deal. Ruby felt intensely patronized by Caleb's approach, suggesting a deep-seated contempt for his controlling methods even when the action appeared beneficial. This subplot sets the stage for the wider manipulations that would dominate the middle of the week. The focus shifted violently to Laurel Thomas, who was unwittingly preparing to entertain a viper at her table. Laurel, in an effort to deepen her understanding of her complex relationship with Ray Walters, organized a meeting at her home, Mulberry Cottage, so she could get to know Celia better. What Laurel anticipated was a casual get-together. What she received was a masterclass in psychological warfare orchestrated by a woman consumed by possessive fear. Celia Daniels, entering Laurel's domestic sphere, quickly realized the profound threat Laurel posed. Instead of welcoming Laurel into Ray's life, Celia felt deeply threatened by the burgeoning relationship between Ray and Laurel. Her anxiety was rooted in a profound fear that the man she thought she knew, the volatile, independent Ray, was becoming too domesticated. This shift was intolerable to Celia, who seemed to thrive on instability and distance. The atmosphere in Mulberry Cottage curdled as Celia initiated her devastating attack. The sources describe her action with chilling precision. Celia sticks the knife in. Her attempt to sabotage Ray's happiness was not subtle, it was a brutal character assassination aimed directly at Laurel's trust. Celia painted a shocking portrait of Ray, making him out to Laurel as a manipulative, emotionally distant playboy. These claims were designed to shatter Laurel's idealized perception of Ray, forcing her to question the very foundation of their connection. The immediate consequence was an explosion of frustration and anger. Ray, unhappy with how things transpired, visibly stormed out of Mulberry Cottage. The silence left in his wake was filled not with peace, but with paralyzing anxiety. Adding a horrifying layer of dramatic irony, Rona was present and deeply worried. Rona possessed the crucial knowledge that Laurel was making a significant mistake by having any dealings with Ray. However, Rona was utterly frightened into silence. This terrifying constraint means a vital truth remains unspoken, leaving Laurel dangerously exposed to the man painted as a manipulative, emotionally distant playboy. The silence of a friend became a louder form of complicity in Laurel's potential downfall. Thursday was the apex of dramatic action, a day marked by two simultaneous, utterly shocking confrontations that exposed secrets and brought violence to the village. Moira Dingle, a woman notorious for her volatile temper, was driven past her breaking point by Celia. The initial friction that saw Moira prepared to go on the attack against Celia for being up to no good again culminated in a staggering discovery. Moira found concrete evidence that Celia had implicated her in some fraudulent invoices. This act of financial and legal sabotage was the catalyst for Moira's rage. The final confrontation occurred when Celia deployed the most insidious tactic, playing the victim. As the tension peaked, Celia publicly made herself out to be the injured party, deflecting all blame and portraying Moira as the aggressor. This calculated move was the final push. In a moment of pure, blinding fury, Moira slapped Celia. The sheer shock of the physical assault left Celia taken aback. But the immediate thrill of justice for Moira was quickly overshadowed by dread. The narrative warns the viewer and Moira herself that Celia is not to be messed with. The terrifying question was instantly posed: will Moira regret resorting to violence like this? The consequences of that single, desperate slap promised a tidal wave of legal and social repercussions. Across the village, the weight of Charity Dingle's secret had become unbearable. Throughout the week, Charity remained plagued with guilt over the truth regarding the baby she was carrying. Her tightly controlled composure finally cracked under the pressure of her self-imposed isolation. In a moment of catastrophic weakness, Charity said too much. She found herself in conversation with Vanessa Woodfield, and the secret, too large to contain, began to seep out. Charity dropped a devastating hint, suggesting that the baby she is carrying may not be Jacob and Sarah's. This revelation struck Vanessa with the force of a physical blow. Vanessa was stunned by the implication of Charity's statement, a betrayal of monumental proportions to Jacob and Sarah. Vanessa immediately pressed Charity, asking further questions in an attempt to pull the full truth into the light. But Charity, realizing the immense mistake she had just made, panicked. The moment of vulnerable honesty was immediately replaced by self-preservation. Charity suddenly backtracked, attempting to retract the terrifying implication she had just laid bare. The secret was pushed back down, but the air of suspicion now hung heavy and unavoidable between the two women. Friday was a day of emotional accounting, where the characters dealt with the immediate, raw fallout of the previous day's explosions. Moira Dingle, having tasted the momentary relief of retaliation, was now consumed by anxiety. She felt deeply uneasy after publicly confronting Celia. The knowledge that Celia was a dangerous, vindictive adversary led Moira to agonizing introspection. Did she make a big mistake by slapping her? The violence was done, but the protracted battle for survival was only just beginning. Meanwhile, Charity Dingle's panic attack surrounding her secret manifested as profound avoidance. Sarah and Jacob, blissfully unaware of the catastrophic conversation Charity had with Vanessa, organized a gathering to reveal the sex of the baby. This innocent, celebratory event was the very thing Charity could not face. An uneasy Charity made excuses not to go. Surrounded by guilt and the immediate danger of Vanessa knowing too much, attending a party centered on the very secret plaguing her soul was impossible. Her excuses, delivered under obvious stress, created immediate suspicion. The terrifying final question of the week lingered in the minds of the audience: will Sarah buy it? If Sarah sees through Charity's flimsy excuses, the fragile piece covering the enormous truth about the baby could shatter, leaving Jacob and Sarah devastated and Charity entirely exposed. This week of unfolding tragedy demonstrated how quickly hidden machinations from Caleb's patronizing deals to Celia's calculated sabotaging of Ray and Laurel can escalate into physical confrontations and irreversible emotional admissions. The inhabitants of Emmerdale were left standing on the edge of a precipice, the ground beneath them cracked open by violence, deceit, and an agonizing, unspoken truth. After Thursday's fiery slap, the atmosphere in Emmerdale is thick with tension. Moira Dingle wakes up with a nagging sense of unease. She's constantly wondering, is she making a huge mistake by acting so violently in public? The question haunts her because everyone knows Celia Daniels is not to be messed with. The risk isn't just personal, it's legal. Celia now has evidence of an assault, while Moira is facing the risk of being falsely accused of fraudulent invoices. That morning, an unannounced police car drives past Moira's property. Is that Celia's reaction? Has she decided to take legal action against Moira, turning her from accuser to criminal? Moira's fear isn't just about herself, she fears this attack will come back to bite her in unforeseen ways. Meanwhile, at the baby gender reveal party that Sarah and Jacob have planned, Charity Dingle's absence becomes the focus of attention. Does Charity, who has been reluctantly making uncomfortable excuses to not attend, know that Sarah has begun to suspect? Will Sarah accept her excuse? If Sarah doesn't buy her aunt's excuse for not being there, a tearful confrontation and demands for explanations could ensue. Tuesday, December 23rd, the alarm bell of conscience. The pressure is on Vanessa Woodfield. She is the only one who has heard Charity's terrifying confession. The baby she is carrying may not be Jacob and Sarah's. Despite Charity's abrupt retraction, Vanessa knows she's keeping a secret that could destroy a family. In a dramatic scene, Vanessa catches Jacob talking excitedly about the baby's future. Her conscience begins to torment her. She's faced with a terrible choice: keep quiet and let Jacob and Sarah live a painful lie, or break that silence and face Charity's wrath and revenge. This internal conflict pushes Vanessa to the brink of breaking down, as she struggles with the deeper questions she'd tried to ask Charity earlier. At the same time, Rona, who'd been threatened into silence about Ray Walters' danger, can't take it anymore. She sees Laurel trying to call Ray, who storms out of Mulberry Cottage in a huff. Even though Ray has been denounced by Celia as an emotionally distant, manipulative player and Rona knows Laurel is making a big mistake by associating with Ray, she is still controlled by fear. Wednesday, December 24th, return of the manipulator and bloody Christmas gift. Just as Laurel is struggling with a shocking claim Celia has made that Ray is a manipulator, Ray Walters suddenly returns. He appears apologetic and charming, trying to deny everything Celia has said, claiming Celia is just jealous because he is becoming too domesticated in her relationship with Laurel. Will Laurel believe her lover's sweet excuses or Celia's sharp warnings? The most dramatic climax comes when Celia Daniels, after Moira's slap, takes cold revenge. Not only is Celia a financial trap, but she's also set a trap. Using evidence of the fraudulent invoice she set Moira up with, Celia sets up a small press conference at the Woolpack pub. She publicly portrays herself as a victim who has been hurt not only physically but also financially, trying to destroy her reputation and get Moira into trouble. Moira's world is in danger of collapsing completely when this attack is orchestrated to destroy her not only as a mother but also as a business owner. The drama is pushed to a climax when Rona finally decides that she can no longer keep silent. In a moment of confrontation, Rona rushes to Laurel, trying to reveal the whole truth about Ray, just as Ray is trying to manipulate Laurel emotionally. Will Rona be able to tell the truth in time, or will Ray stop her in time, and will her prolonged silence leave Laurel too little time to trust her? This is where three of the most dangerous storylines collide. The secret of the baby is threatened to be revealed, the violent attack is trying to destroy Moira, and Ray's dangerous manipulation almost consumes Laurel. This week promises to take the audience to an unexpected turn, where each character must pay the price for their cover-ups or rash actions. The dramatic situation here is like an avalanche. Every small misstep has shaken the iceberg, and now, everything is sliding downhill. If just one character accidentally slips, the entire village will be buried in the brutal truth. The tension in Emmerdale was a tangible, suffocating weight. Moira Dingle, consumed by the deep unease she felt after publicly confronting Celia, woke to a terrifying reality. Her rash act of violence, the resounding slap delivered in a moment of fury, is poised to deliver maximum retribution. The day began not with violence, but with silence. But that silence was shattered when a uniformed officer arrived at Butler's farm. Moira's heart pounded as she was served with an official summons. Celia Daniels had pressed charges for assault. The officer's polite professionalism only underscored the gravity of the situation. Moira now faced a criminal record, but that was just the appetizer. The true attack came later. In a chilling act of calculated vengeance, Celia did not stop at assault. She played her strongest card. Word quickly spread through the village that Celia was now cooperating with authorities, not just about the slap, but about the fraudulent invoices she had implicated Moira in. Celia, having publicly made herself out to be the injured party, was expertly spinning the narrative. Moira's slap was not an act of self-defense against a fraudster, but the desperate outburst of a criminal caught red-handed. Moira's world was contracting, the fear that the outburst would come back to bite her now manifesting as a terrifying legal threat. Tuesday, December 23rd, the crushing weight of the secret. The festive cheer surrounding Jacob and Sarah's baby gender reveal party was irrevocably spoiled by Charity Dingle's absence. Sarah Sugden, smart and increasingly suspicious, was not fooled by Charity's uneasy excuses. Sarah tracked Charity down, her youthful indignation quickly turning into worried confrontation. "Why didn't you come, Charity? Are you avoiding us?" she demanded. Charity, still plagued with guilt over the truth regarding the baby and terrified that she had said too much to Vanessa, was thrown into a visible panic. She tried to deflect, but her hesitation only amplified Sarah's mistrust. The scene reached a devastating climax when Vanessa Woodfield, burdened by the secret, the possibility that the baby may not be Jacob and Sarah's, walked in. Caught between Charity's desperate need to backtrack and Sarah's heartbroken confusion, Vanessa felt the moral tightrope snap. Sarah, sensing the strange, suffocating tension between the two adults, turned to Vanessa. "Vanessa, what's going on? Why won't she look at me?" Vanessa's silence stretched, a palpable admission of the truth. She was inches away from exposing the devastating secret, forcing Charity to her knees and threatening to tear the Dingle family apart just days before Christmas. Wednesday, December 24th, the manipulator's embrace and the desperate warning. At Mulberry Cottage, Laurel Thomas was still reeling from the shocking claims that Ray Walters was a manipulative, emotionally distant playboy. Ray, having stormed out of Mulberry Cottage earlier in the week, returned with a calculated display of remorse and devotion. He worked quickly, twisting Celia's brutal honesty into simple jealousy. "Celia is just threatened," he cooed. "She can't stand that I'm becoming too domesticated for her tastes. You've changed me, Laurel. I'm done with that old life." Laurel, desperate to believe in the man she loved, began to succumb to his persuasive charm. But Rona Gozkirk knew better. Having been frightened into silence previously, Rona watched in agonizing horror as Ray systematically rebuilt his facade. She knew that Laurel was making a big mistake by having any dealings with Ray. The risk of Ray's retribution was nothing compared to the guilt of allowing her friend to be emotionally destroyed. In a desperate, reckless moment, Rona burst into the cottage. Ignoring Ray's icy glare, she screamed the truth, raw and unfiltered, pulling Laurel away from Ray's seductive grip. "Don't believe him, Laurel. Celia wasn't lying. I know things, terrible things. He's using you." Ray's mask dropped, replaced by a terrifying, dangerous fury. The question now was not whether Laurel would finally heed Rona's warning, but whether Ray, the alleged emotionally distant playboy, would allow Rona to walk away after daring to break the silence. Thursday, December 25th, Christmas Day, a collision of truths. The village is fractured. Moira faces formal legal proceedings, Charity faces the imminent collapse of her life, and Laurel faces a choice between a trusted friend and a charismatic lover. On Christmas morning, the situation reaches a terrifying crescendo. Vanessa, unable to hold the secret any longer, makes a fateful call. Simultaneously, Moira finds herself directly confronted by Celia in a public space, who now wields the police and the fraudulent invoices as weapons. Celia leans in, a triumphant sneer on her face. "Did you really think a slap was worth losing everything, Moira?" The scene cuts sharply back to Laurel, where Rona's warning has been tragically interrupted. Ray, smiling thinly, simply asks Rona, "Are you sure you want to involve yourself in this, Rona? Some secrets are better left unsaid." The stage is set for a triple confrontation. Will Vanessa succeed in revealing the truth about the baby? Will Moira break under the legal pressure from Celia? And most critically, what terrible price will Rona pay for finally breaking her frightened silence and exposing the man Laurel has placed her complete trust in? The consequences of silence and the debt of violence are now due, and the Christmas atmosphere is about to be violently shattered.